Hey everybody, this is Travis Pfeiffer here, along with my good buddy Brandon Laycob. Brandon, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing all right. Been enjoying Opus 12. It's been out about what 3 weeks now, I think. It's been
Something
really
like that.
interesting, and there's been a lot of kind of new things that have popped up in it, and so I thought we could, take some time to talk about it. And I'm just gonna jump right in with one of my favorite additions, which is the new help Warriors of Light got. Um, So we got a new Soul, new Aegis, new Dusk, new backup Sarah, and best of all is the lady herself, Ferris. I mean, I was playing this deck before it was cool. You remember I was playing back in Opus 10 when the Light Refia was out. And I liked it then, and I thought it was fine then. And man, Ferris just shot that thing to the moon. Like,
Yeah.
holy cow. When I read that card, I thought it was going to be good. I was like, yeah, this reads like it's good. And then I played it. I was like, oh man, this is incredible. Like, man, it's been so fun. Like, it was so satisfying to play with you and James, a weekend or two ago, and to have James be like, well, this is just stupid. Like, this isn't fair. As I'm just sitting there, hey, here's a chain of warrior lights that just blew up your whole board. And like, man, she feels incredible. And just the whole set, like the whole new people, been fun to try. I'm pretty sold on the new Dusk. I think I will keep him. I might still try the other Soul, just because I like how big of a body he is. And the other one's really weak, but the searching is really nice. And I might go back to the old Aegis. I'm definitely going to try him because I miss the Brave. But, there's some little experimenting in there, definitely worth trying. But like Ferris, I'm just 100% sold on. And I'm sure you've experienced that too. Brandon and I had this best of three, like just knockout, drag out matches with Warriors of Light, and he had like a Shikari deck. And it was great. It was so good. Like to me, that was the card game at its best. Like this first match, Brandon, I mean, I put him to 6 damage and he just held on forever with this Ishtola that he kept like power bumping out of the way with Tyro. Like I kept trying to Ferris trigger to blow it up. And I think one time I even hit it for like 12,000 and he like did like this Tyro bump to Asura reactivate the Tyro to hit it again to put it to like 13. And so it lived and then it didn't take any damage. And like it was crazy. But yeah, it was such a great time. And just, I wish there was a real tournament right now because I would definitely run Warriors of Light. And tell me if I'm being biased, but like I think it is very competitive. Like I think this could easily take a tournament. Maybe I'm being too biased. What do you think?
No, it is very good. And I mean, just as viable as most other decks. It's pretty strong. I know I definitely misread Ferris as soon as I came out. I thought it just said it bumped all your Warriors of Lights by 2K, not
Oh,
did 2,000 damage for everyone you controlled, or else I would have also probably been playing that deck. You went to kill one of my forwards the first time we played, and I was like, let me read that again.
yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's great. So again, especially with the chains, like if she's down and Aegis into Wool comes down or Refia into one of the others. Like I remember our first match with it, you were playing Rampier and you had Shantoto and Kane. And I was like, okay, Refia comes down, she's the fourth one, blow up Kane for 8, here comes Arc, boom, Shantoto dies for 10. It was just like, whoa, man. Yeah.
That was the last time I ever played Rampier.
Yeah, and Brandon's like, "Well, done with that one." But yeah, tell us about that the Shikaries because I know you've been playing them a lot, and again, they were, Lord knows you were putting me through my paces with those. They are a beast. I can't believe, again, kind of like you. Like when I read those cards, there's so much text on all three of them that kind of the only thing I like absorbed was that, oh, X allows you to do this big party attack. And then only seeing them in practice have I now fully appreciated, whoa, wait a minute, like they're free? Like if you have, Y or Z on the board, I can't remember which one does what, but like one comes in and it overpays for itself or it lets you draw a card and then they get to 9K and they're unblockable. And it's like that was stuff I hadn't really even like again appreciated until I saw it in practice. So why don't you tell everyone how you smoked me with them?
Yeah, when I saw those cards for the first time, I was like, "Oh, these are nice little cheap cards that just work off of each other, and it'll be super fun to play." And the more I played them, the more obnoxious they got. I know 99% of the decks I've been building lately are wind-related decks for those cards. I know there's a bunch of infinite loops out and stuff and shenanigans with them, but I like the slightly complex, you know, devastating shenanigans. Just play a bunch of stuff, get a bunch of free value off it, untap your backups, draw cards, just what they do. But I mostly just find little cheeky ways to cheat them out, whether it's starter Vaughn or Phoenixes and the Earthwind, both Phoenixes for that matter. They fit well into probably almost every deck I've played with them. They have a super nice home in Icewind, Earthwind for sure, because they're searchable by Star Symbol, because they needed that too.
Yeah. For some reason.
At least they're unique.
Yeah.
Do you imagine just flooding the board with those?
Thank God. Well, if anyone's paid attention to the RVA locals, we've had some infinite loop combos that this person will get out like 10 forwards, have Shikari X on the field, use Hashmal to change everything into a Sin Hunter, and now you have a board of 10 forwards that like can't be blocked by 4 or more for some reason, and they all have haste. And they just whoom and just 0 to 7 people. It's disgusting. It's like, was this Yu-Gi-Oh? What is this nonsense? Like, it's crazy.
God,
Oh, and you use
let's hope not.
Yeah, right. You used the starter Vaughn in one of those matches, and you flipped off. I think it was an X and then a Y. And you were saying because of the way the ability works and how it resolves, they actually see each other enter the field, so you get both the backup activation and the draw.
Is what I was told. I'm pretty sure. From what I've heard, yes.
It makes sense because if you think about it, the ability shouldn't, until Vaughn at 5 damage, he goes twice, but the entire ability has to do all that before it resolves.
All one effect.
Yeah, so on resolution, they're now both on the field, so it makes sense. Not that they need that, but yeah, they're a beast, man. And it's weird because they're both everywhere and not everywhere right now. Like, some people are just running over folks with them, and they're ridiculous. But then, like, one of the Veil of Wii U Cup or whatever that was held recently, they weren't anywhere to be found there. So yeah, it's kind of it's interesting. I hate them already.
At least not in top 8. I didn't get to pay attention to the entire tournament, so there could have been some sprinkled throughout the 25 players there were, but it seemed like most people were either ready for them or just didn't need them.
Yeah, I have definitely, I made like a new kind of Earth deck that I'll talk about at the end, but I put in the old Shadow Lord just for the Shikaris. I was just like, well, gotta dust this guy off because these guys are ridiculous once they get going. So something else new that's kind of come out was that, well, hold on, I want to say something else on the Shikaris. Like, man, they're just so frustrating. Like, I get what they were going for with the party attack idea, because you wouldn't want to make it so that the party has to deal you damage, because they could just chump block with anything. And, that's a great trade for them. You just spent 3 attackers for them to lose 1 person. So I understand why it like deals you 3 points of damage just on the attack declaration. At the same time, man, does that feel just like so powerful that like, oh, it doesn't even, and again, they have this can't be blocked by 4 or more anyway. So it's kind of weird that it's like, by the way, you couldn't block me anyway, and now I'm just going to deal you 3 just for declaring the attack. Like, it's just crazy.
I completely forgot about that. Playing in person, I play against are aggro players, so I don't get a chance to get all 3 out with the X sitting there for a while to swing in and deal the 3 points off the X ability. When I'm playing online, most people are playing slow and steady, and I'll get the X out a turn beforehand, and then I'll just jam out YZ and just swing in for game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just like, what are they going to do about it? Like, they basically have to have spot removal on immediately, which again is hard when they all get to 9K. So yeah, they're a terror, man. Another thing, so when we were playing and I was playing against James with Warrior Light, he was using a new Knights build. Now his Knights build was, I think, Fire and Water. I don't think he was using like Lightning, and I've seen some Knights builds used in Ramza. I don't know how I feel about these yet. I definitely need to see more. I've seen some turns where Beatrix can get scary, where she'll reduce something, rain comes down for 1, and then another knight comes down for like their normal cost, and they all boost the power of the field, so you've just got these massive bodies coming at you. At the same time, like when Beatrix isn't out, they don't feel nearly as threatening. Whereas with Warriors, I still kind of contend that even without Ferris, Warriors at Light kind of have enough threatening on their own to at least be useful. But so far with the Knights, it definitely seems like if Beatrix isn't out there, like, I just don't feel like they do as much. Like the Steiner, I don't know. I'm not really sold on the Steiner. The Gawain is cool to search stuff out, but I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sold on this yet. I'm also not giving up on it. I mean, it's still kind of early, but I haven't, it wasn't like Warriors of Light where it was like, whoa, it's very apparent how crazy this is, or the Shikaris. Knights are definitely like, is there potential here? I'm not sure.
No, it definitely made it a lot easier to play the Opus 5 Ramza.
Yeah.
Beatrix. It just made it so much cheaper, basically by herself. And Knights in general. I know JG playing his Agrius decks every week has been playing Agrius Knights, and that's been, I think they've mostly been Knights anyway, but now with the new Beatrix and stuff, it made it a lot stronger for sure. My decks, I tested Knights, was probably the first deck I actually built when Opus 12 came out.
Oh, nice.
It was, what was that element? Fire.
Mm-hmm.
Fire, water, lightning, because gives you access to Garland and Reigns.
Yeah.
And the new Jegrin can play the Princess Sarah from deck. So you can color fix for your fire there if you didn't play the water fire Moogle.
You can get Ducal Kana as your backup if you got the lightning.
Yep. And Princess Sarah helping color fix for fire lets you play the Opus 6 Garland. It gives all your knights brave.
Oh yeah.
It's always nice. They've been playing pretty well. I think the way I'm trying to play them wasn't as good as JG's build.
He was doing lightning water, I'm assuming? Maybe with fire as well?
He was doing earth water lightning with
really?
Agrius.
Who's the Earth Knight?
Heretical Knight Garland.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
There might have been deleted in there. I don't think I saw every card in the deck.
Interesting.
I know there's
okay.
brand. Something else. Can't remember.
Okay.
But it was definitely nice.
Okay, so it sounds like lightning is, you definitely want that in there for maybe the big Ramza, the Ducal, because yes. Seeing the fire water version, I was like, this just kind of seems okay. Lightning seems like it would give it a good spice.
Granted, Gawain will basically search out any of the cards in your deck anyway.
That's true.
But the Ducal Tana will still get you the Ramza.
I mean, even if you made it like lightning water focused, I guess you could then have that Moogle that taps for fire and just use him to basically get Gawain out there. That's interesting. You know what's spicy now that has never been before was party attacking. You know, before this Opus, party attacking was kind of a joke just because people, it was something you only ever did if like you had to get over a big body. And obviously they dedicated a lot of stuff to parties this Opus, and there was a lot of, like, is that going to be worth it? And at least so far, I think it is. What do you think?
Yes, the party attacks, phenomenal. They did a very good job of trying to push that into a bunch of decks. They made it a lot easier too. Yeah. A bunch of things that say they can party with any color. Some things that just give you haste, like I think Yuna might have been one of the first cards we saw that said something about party in its text. Mm-hmm. And I was like, there's other Yunas I'd rather play over that, and I don't really see much of, party being a thing. But then as more and more cards were revealed and they gave us Bart's Boko, you're like, oh, they just get haste right out the gates and just make party so much more fun. Every time your party deals damage, draw a card. Thanks, Boko.
Yeah.
And then just as more and more time went on, the backup Furion that lets you tap it and hit something for 4K whenever your party's attacking. The Shikaris party attack together and deal the 3 points of damage. Lots of, was it mid-Previa? Whenever
where he zaps somebody.
Parties.
Yeah.
Is it 6K or 8K?
I think it's 8K. It's a lot. It's 8K.
God. Yeah, just pull back the new Sid Previa and give it haste. And I guess Sid Previa wouldn't have haste, but still just so many things that just let you party. And they just did a really good job of that.
They did. I was just like you. Like, I thought the Yuna looked interesting, but I thought it was going to be a one and done. Like, oh, well, that'll be the one party thing they add. But no, they really dedicated to it, and it paid off. Like, Bart's Boko, man. Not often do I want to slam down 2 forwards turn 1. Gosh darn, does it feel good to slam down those 2? Because assuming they don't have, something to interrupt with. So I did this against Tanner the other day. We were playing, and so I went first, and I had enough to do. I did Bart, so I had 6 cards in hand, did Bart's Boko, and I had 1 card left, and it was my Chocolate backup. And so, they swing in. Bart searches out another forward who comes down, who also has haste, because it's a 1. So I searched out the 1 CP Borgin, the new big guy. I get to draw a card off of Boko. So at the end of turn 1, keep in mind, my opponent hasn't even gone yet. They haven't even drawn a card. I had 3 forwards out, dealt him 2 points of damage, drew a card, and got a backup down. So I had 3 forwards and 1 backup out on turn 1. He had to crap out Sephiroth, and I just ran over him because it was just so fast. But it was just like, holy cow, man. But again, at least to me so far, as crazy as Bartz is, he doesn't feel strong because he's pulling out a lot of one costs. So yes, they're cheap. Yes, you'll get the occasional one like Borgen who's crazy big, or a Zach, but most of one costs are usually tend to be pretty tiny. So again, any kind of ping is probably going to remove most of them. Afina, any big board clear. So but they needed to also make it strong enough that you wanted to party attack, and they absolutely succeeded with that. I cannot tell you how good it feels with Yuna if you've partied, be like, hey, here comes another body, and now I've got 2 more cards in hand. Like, feels great.
Unreal.
Yeah.
The fact that you can also just search Bart's Boko with Sildra,
Yeah.
the new Sildra. It's just not just for water cards. Card's so good.
I know, yeah. Let me just go ahead and pull out this two-part combo. Yeah, whoop, there they go. Yeah, Sildra's been great too. Yeah, do you have anything else?
Sure, there's.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm sure there's other party cards, party attack related cards that I've missed from Opus 12, but I mean, Gipple being able to give all your party forwards Brave. Granted, it's an Earth, and I feel like you're less likely to party in that element, or if you just jam it in, Earth Wind, all your little guys with Bart's and Boko, you just get Brave.
I think people are sleeping on Gipple a little, because I know the RVA guys are saying too, like, especially in like pre-release or like any kind of draft or limited environment, he's insane, because no matter what forwards you have out there, hey, here they're coming at you and they're Brave, so they don't have to dull, and you're never going to block them because they're going to be insanely massive. You know, each forward's getting 5k on top of their own power. Like, so yeah, I'm excited to see more Gipple.
Silly.
So something I've been trying is a Bahamut deck based off that new forward Bahamut we got. It's fun. There are a lot of Bahamut cards to use. I don't know how good it is. It's kind of like, it reminds me of Monks in a way, in that Monks is so dependent on Ursula. Like, I've played many a Monk game where I never see the Ursula, and it just feels like I'm playing half a deck. And Bahamut's kind of similar. Like, it's nice because it still has elements of that like fire control feel that like the big Ifrit decks and the Afrita decks had. And when he gets going, it's so easy to, you attack with Bahamut, 5k to the field, then you pay for the impulse on top of that. Boom, it's just so easy to board wipe. Like, he feels cool when he gets going, but I don't know how good it will be. Like, man, and just some of the Bahamut summons, like, I played it against someone who did a turn 1 Neo X Death against me, and I can't cast the one Bahamut from Opus 8 because it has to be played off of backups. So I can't get any backups to even use this thing. So, and I'd already had a single backup down because I think he actually went second. So I had to use the Bahamut, I think, from Opus 6. So it cost me like 3 cards in hand. I had to lose the backup because I chose him, dealt him a point of damage. Yeah, it just felt awful. Like, so I'm hoping the Bahamuts are fun, and, you know, in theory it's a card that can only get better. But right now it's kind of, it's fun to use, but I don't know how good it is.
I've played against a few of the Bahamut decks, and I think they've all played a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Most of them have been mono fire. I think I saw an earth fire one, just so fire could have the protection, or use the Ajita, or earth could give the protection with like Titans and stuff, and then you could use Ajito and add back more Bahamuts to special again.
Interesting.
It wasn't bad. That one, it was definitely the most unique one I've seen, because most of them all just try and use the Moody backup and Opus 1 Fang to basically make it free.
Yeah, the Moody feels great with the forward guy. That definitely feels great. That's interesting they chose Earth. I hadn't thought of that because Bahamut specifically says he has to have fire summons in the break zone. So in my head, I guess I just thought, oh, it's got to be mono fire. But I guess as long as all your summons are fire summons, then yeah, you could. You know.
It was neat. I like that one.
Interesting.
God, one of my favorite elements, obviously wind, mixed with one of my least favorites, ice.
Yeah.
The new Bear Lion Lock are very good. I have not touched Opus 3 Guido. I don't know if I will. I have no plans of that because I don't want to try and mix 2 to 3 elements into a deck, or try and jam out Guido just so I could play, or jam Guido into the deck just so I could board wipe, because I feel like Bear Lion is good enough on his own, or at least with the other cards, obviously, just not Guido. It's not necessary trying to make that work, because you got so many good cards like the Opus 6 Zidane that you could use with it.
Yeah.
That Your opponent discards and he triggers, and you could untap one of your wind backups. And because you did that, Barrelage 3Ks the board. If you just stack up enough of the discards, you just keep untapping and board wipe them and discard at the same time. And when you discard, the Barrelage gets still free something, which is also super nice on top of that. But not as nice as that lock. Getting 2 CP cheaper for every card you've cast that turn. And if you're playing Wind, you're probably casting a lot of cards, or at least untapping a lot of cards. Especially with the new Althea, that card is ridiculous. And then just being able to play the lock for 2 CP, potentially kill a forward, and if anything, if you don't get to kill something, you just make your opponent discard and then freeze 2 cards. It did not need that. Yeah. Even just jamming him turn 1 for 8. That's still pretty fair. If your opponent just plays 2 backups, you just pitch 4 for him, make him discard, and then freeze the 2 backups. So good.
It's funny with the lock because its ice effects are really, I think, what make it so strong, because I've never used the monster break. That hasn't come up yet. And I think maybe one time I used the 6 CP break. But for the most part, like you said, and because it freezes characters, if it froze forwards, it would be so much weaker because, like you said, you couldn't really jam it out that early to much benefit. But yeah, the fact that, hey, you have 2 backups, okay, well, they're frozen now, and you lose a card from hand, like, he's so good, man. I redefined my Snokobos deck, Snow and Chocobos, to put Lock and Barrel Eye in there, and my girlfriend uses it, and it's like it's so strong now because we have the No backup, which reactivates when a forward attacks. God. So like the Snow's almost pointless. You don't even need to dull them out of the way because if Barrel Eye's there, you know, you stack it and just you've board wiped just by attacking into them. And then one time she dropped Lock with Barrel Eye on the field, and it was legit discard, dull freeze 2 characters, and then Barrel Eye is going to dull freeze something else. It was So Lock came in. It was 3 dull freeze on a character and a discard. It was just like, ah.
Just the cards you can play with them are so good.
Yeah.
The Opus 4 backup no. Probably one of the best would be Pandemonium.
Yeah. Ugh.
Untap something and 2K the board. And he just it's just a 5K to the board for 1 card.
Right. Yeah. That's basically cost
nothing. Really lose nothing. Yeah. So good.
It's insane. And it really made me appreciate the new Riku, because I wasn't high on that Riku at all. I was just like, maybe I was too overwhelmed by Barrel Eye Lock, but like it's such an easy way to get Lock on the field. And I think that's what she did, is like Barrel Eye was already on the field. She cast Riku, which reactivated backups. So boom, there's a ping to the board. And now Lock is cheaper. Now Lock comes down. And yeah, so then she attacked with like 1 forward, the Barrel Eye, and now it's already like, 6, 9K to the board. Everything's dull froze. It was just like, I was like, what have I created? What is this monster? It's just, it's annoying. And now, not to undersell the Guido either. I agree with you. I don't think the Guido's even necessary, but seeing the Guido, if you don't have a Minwu or a way to delete that Barrel Eye, the game's over. You cannot keep a forward on the field because they have an infinite board wipe on their turn. I was thinking, like, even if I had the Light Warrior of Light that reduced damage by 2, that's okay. I'll just 9 times in a row, crazy.
Not to say that the Guido's not good. I think I've played against somebody. They weren't playing that specifically, but they were playing something that just basically, if I didn't haste my forwards out the turn they come into play, they're just dead.
Right.
It was probably you. Probably you're just like, I'll just play another Warrior of Light and just 12K whatever forward you play out there.
Yeah.
I think I was just on a clock the whole time.
Right. Yeah, you're kind of, yeah. Ice
and I do
super strong.
That I'm glad that they made the lock pretty, I'd say little overpowered. Not too much, because I do appreciate that the forward he kills has to be 6 or higher.
Yeah.
And not the usual 5 or higher like Wind does, because that would just be insane.
Yeah, that would be ridiculous.
But not all the effects are always good. 99% of the time you're going for the discard freeze. So it might as well just have the 2 effects and it would still be a fantastic card, but they just gave it more just in case.
Right.
I
still think it would have been fine if he could only dull freeze forwards. It would still make him great. Like, again, like, it does worry me a little. There's a lot of stuff, and it happened in Opus 11 with like the Remnant package, was that so much stuff is targeting characters now, and that does kind of worry me a little, like, especially when you drop that stuff early, like you said, and your backups are just locked out, and now you're having to overpay for whatever you were going to do that turn. Like, people always said, how strong Opus 3 Zidane is, that he would wreck your curve because he plucks that backup out of your hand if he comes down early. And, freezing your backups is the same thing. Like, well, you don't have the CP now to play for him. So if I were to redesign Lock, I might have been like, I think it should only target forwards, or like forwards and monster. Like, I don't know. Backups is very strong, but whatever. It's the way it is. So
freezing characters is really good.
Yeah. It is. So probably one of the most interesting multi-element legends that, man, I wasn't sure what to think about this card when I did my review with Alex, and I'm still just not sure. I still feel very torn on it, is Thancred. And I've seen a lot of people trying to make Thancred work. Someone suggested a Scions deck that was like Earth Lightning Scions, but with just enough water mixed in to get him out there. And like, I didn't really like that. It was two colors split, and again, Scions is a tribe that you want as many Scions on the field as possible. So having to dedicate a backup slot to water didn't feel good. I have him in my Dragoon deck, which he feels pretty neat in there, but he doesn't get the water effect much. Like, I think the most I can get is 2. But he can come in and when he can come right in with haste and break something on attack, that feels great. You have a deck I'll let you talk about in a sec that is really interesting, but like, I don't know, maybe it was by design. I wonder if when they made this card, did they want you to be able to successfully get both effects off? Because I know that's what we were all dreaming about when we first read him, but in practice, it just seems very difficult to do that. It seems more like you kind of have to lean one way or the other. You got to either lean more into the water effect or into the lightning effect. What do you think? Tell us about that Threegis deck, because that goes into that.
I know when I first saw the card, I was torn because I wanted to try and get both effects off, always trying to go for that max value.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're just torn, like, do you want to pull something back, or do you want to kill something? And I'm sure if you played, 3 lightning backups, 2 water backups, and then Thancred, you get to pull a 3-drop back, and whenever he swings, you can kill something 4 or less, which seems like it'd be good enough. But then you'd have to build your deck around being able to get the exact right number of backups out, and
he's got to get haste some way.
Yeah, backup Alizé,
right?
Get all your Scions haste.
Yeah,
that I know. I've tried building a couple different decks. A mono lightning Thancred deck that plays Selkie to search it out, and the lightning water Moogle. So I'm able to play it, and then whenever it enters, it just pulls back a 1-drop, and that 1-drop being Sid Previa, the new one that gives a forward haste. So it enters, gives your Thancred haste, lets him swing right away if for some reason you're not playing the Alizé backup or don't have it out, and being able to kill something 7 or less. I know that's one way. I wanted to try and go both routes to see which one I liked more, the lightning or the water, which one was more viable. And I'll probably end up trying to build a super deck that just combines both of those.
Yeah.
The water side of Thancred is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It is an earth water deck, splashing Thancred, and Regis. Only lightning cards in the deck, 3 Thancred, 3 Regis. You just use the Tyro and Earth Lightning Moogles to help get out those lightning cards. And Shantota's in there.
Yeah, so plenty of color fixing.
Oh yes, Earth made color fixing super easy. You just try and get out as many of your water cards into the break zone and water backups and forwards, playing the Layla Vikings, Lena with Knight at the moment. Knight doesn't feel great. I'll probably switch it for maybe a Porum, maybe jam some summons in there. But your Thancred hits the field, and if you just have 5 or more waters, you pull back Layla, Lena, you get Viking, and whatever other 2-drop on top of that seems really good. Or you could pull back a Cloud of Darkness, which I've done a couple of times.
Yeah, that's gross.
That was a good one. But being able to, it's mostly a silly deck, and I'll probably end up trying to form into a real deck, because it's mostly just a Regis Thancred deck, or a Regis Kefka deck. And you just sack all your dudes for Kefka, and then you just play a Regis to pull everything back, which is just so good. Or play Thancred to pull back the Regis to pull back other stuff. It's meant to just be a silly deck, but the amount of times I've been able to kill something with just the 1 or 2 lightning cards in the deck just makes my day.
It's great. And he also runs Luna Freya, the backup. So I remember there was this turn, like, I basically had to delete the Thancred. I was going to die. But, we had Luna Freya. So it's like, okay, crack that. He comes back again. Boom, here comes, like, another, like you said, Lena Knight or Cloud of Darkness. Just like, good God. Like, it's brutal. And that Regis, too, like, I used a deck against my friend. I think he was like mono fire, and there was this turn he had Broskas out, and I think Brandon saw this. And I had a Cecil on the field, and Noctis, the new Noctis, and a Gilgamesh. And so at the end of combat, I used Gilgamesh to break and hit the Broskas. I was like, I just want to get rid of it. And he didn't know I had Regis in my hand. So he's like, okay, kill the Cecil with Broskas. Then I Regis, Cecil comes back in. He had a dull Bergen, so it killed that. Gilgamesh is back. And I mean, his quote like is stuck in my head. He just said, well, that was absolutely backbreaking. It was like, yeah, like that was it. That game was over right there. Like Regis just said, hey, all that effort you just put in to get rid of those two guys, yeah, they're right back again. Like Regis does feel if he goes off, he feels backbreaking.
Yeah, it sounds like a game with Steven.
Yeah,
I know most decks, if not all the decks I've seen Regis in, are playing the Kefka, just because Kefka just clears your board to kill something, and then you just jam down the Regis and just pull everything right on back, which is really good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to play Regis outside of Kefka. I'll still jam a Kefka or two in every Regis deck I build just because it's there.
Yeah.
But I do want to try and explore options outside of that, like with the Opus 4 Tama, the 7-drop that just pulls back an Earth of 5 or less. I feel like that's never a bad card, especially you just pull back a Gabranth too and search anything you need.
I never liked that Kefka either. Like that was never my style. It was like, I don't want to kill 3 of my own guys just to break one of theirs. But again, with Regis, he's definitely seen a resurgence. That's like, oh, no, don't worry. You'll be getting those ones back. Like, God, one time you did, I think it was Gabranth, Layla Viking. And so Kefka came and broke one of mine. You bring in Regis, so Gabranth comes back, Layla comes back, who then also brings the Viking. So it was like, oh, by the way, that was totally free. It was just like, oh my goodness, yeah, it's crazy.
Most of the decks I build are just to see if I can do the shenanigans that I see in my head. They're not usually practical. If I can get them to work, that's great. The Kefka, I've loved that card, and I've always wanted to try and make it work. And then once Matiski started playing Vice Kings, and just all the little guys, the Layla Viking and Thaumaturge, and I think Thaumaturge, and then whatever the other one is. Maybe I just played Borgin, the ice one. Mm-hmm. You just sack off all your little guys that cost you virtually nothing to play Kefka, kill something, and then you just draw off all your Vikings.
Right.
It's like, that just seems so easy to do and just so good.
Yeah, it's definitely seen a resurgence with this. I mean, it's just that kind of like value, and like you said, it feels like free value, and free value is always good. As a matter of fact, someone who is gonna give ice free value is the Crystal Exarch. I was high on this card when I saw it. My buddy Cody, who plays a lot of ice, he wasn't for some reason. I'm not sure why. Yeah, I mean, there's a tiny caveat to it, like you gotta have a card in hand, but like it's so fluid. And I said this in my review with Alex, and it's funny, he kind of like pushed back on me. He was like, no, I don't think that's a good idea. Where I said that he doesn't even have to be played in mono ice because he can bring out any forward just based on the number of ice backups. It doesn't have to be an ice forward. And I've seen people try him in like fire ice and some other combinations. Like, he's a good card. And again, he's one of those cards that like as your opponent, you got to get rid of it because otherwise they're just start slapping down free forwards every turn.
Yeah, he was in my fire ice deck because I think all of my 99% of the cards in the deck, the forwards were just all 3-drops. So I was like, yeah, I just need to get 3 ice backups out there. And I just played a bunch of guys, Devouts and stuff, and just cheap ones, Time Mages, so I could blink stuff if I needed, but mostly just to be there for Crystal Exarch. And that seemed to work out pretty okay. And then I played against our buddy Steven, playing a mono ice deck with a bunch of Earth cards in it, Earth Flan, Gabranth, Cecil, Shantoto. And he made phase 2, played a Gabranth for free because he just had, I think, Shantoto being his only Earth backup,
but she counts for ice too.
Every element, yeah. So he essentially just had 5 ice backups out there, and I've watched him. In one game he cheated in Gabranth, Cecil, and I want to say Sid Alstein.
Wow!
All 3 turns in a row because I just did not have a way to deal with it. I barely won that game. I think it was probably an Earthwind Shikari deck, and I just drew the Y'shtola because she also can swing under stuff. She needed that.
Yeah.
And but I think we tweaked the deck and just made it a little more Crystal Exarch focused. But you got to like get to your backups, otherwise he's just just a dead card. You don't want to play him when you're on 2 or 3 backups, especially if you focus on the card, you're going to put in, 4s and 5s so you can get more value free.
Right.
Just bigger stuff for free. So you got to play just backup searchers in it if you want to play Crystal Exarch in it with ice cards.
Yeah, agreed. We'll kind of touch on, I guess, Earth here on this last little subject. So I've been trying like a Galoof deck, kind of based around that new Galoof, and I've been running like the Opus X starter Kefka with him. That when Kefka attacks, he has to choose a forward to break it. And so in this case, what I'll do is like beforehand, you could use like Arden with that to basically get the safe value out of it. But instead, what I've been doing is I'll get Kefka down. And then, he needs to wait a turn before he can attack. And then on the next turn, it's nice because you can put Galoof down in the main phase. Kefka can swing in. He just chooses Galoof, who can't be broken, and then blows up an opponent. That part of it has felt good. Other than that, like, I don't know. It seemed like people were really going high on that card when they first saw it, and I was higher too, but like in practice, it's so easy. Like if they're going to do something to him, they'll just do it in the main phase. And either in the main phase is like only a fool is going to be like, well, hold on, let me wait till he's unbreakable. Now I'll attempt to like break him. And I haven't gotten to use Unfaltering Volition once, so that hasn't really felt so great. But who also is in that deck, who's in his 2 CP range to bring back on his exit effect, is Kryl. And again, I still wasn't really sure what to think of this card, but she's shown up a lot. Like, I'll watch Alex Hancock's stream, and she's on there constantly. She seems to be everywhere. And the funny thing is, like, I don't even know if she's honestly great. Like, I don't know if it's just a lot of people are trying her out. I don't think she's bad. I'm not sold that she's, like, amazing yet. Being able to reuse a summon is always a good idea. But I've had turns where I'll get her out. It has to be used that turn she comes in. And then I don't really even have the CP to still pay for it. So like for me, it's almost, I don't know. Maybe I just need more time with her, but she's kind of in a weird spot. I didn't expect to see her as much as I have. That's for sure. Like I'm amazed at the number of people just jamming her into everywhere.
Yeah. I'm glad she's popping up a lot more than I anticipated. Cause I saw that card and I fell in love. Like just being able to reuse summons is always up there for me. And being able to do it on entry from either player's break zone. I always forget that part because I'm always too busy trying to play my own stuff again. Yeah. Although I do believe that the problem is that you still have to pay with the correct colors.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's too good.
Yeah.
But other than that, I wanted to just play her just in one of my shenanigans decks, just replaying a bunch of summons and untapping all your cards. And it seems like everybody beat me to it. With especially Alex Hancock's with the Earth Wind, just Alexander's being able to replay that for 1 and then untapping your stuff and just paying it again, cycling, drawing through your deck. Super good. I know every time I play her into my deck, she's just a damage magnet. I believe one of our games you hit all of them into damage.
Yeah.
Just all consecutively.
Yep.
I just play her so I don't lose any of my important cards.
Right.
I don't think I've ever actually gotten to play her more than once out of the many decks I've tried to put her in.
It's funny the cards you'll get. Like I've got cards like that too, where it's like I don't actually play this card. It's just there to go into damage, like because I can never use it.
It's there to protect my other cards.
Exactly right. Well, kind of speaking of that, I'm gonna throw in a surprise little last topic here, which is Lonnie. So Lonnie is interesting to me because I definitely think the card is fine, and I think it's got great potential, but I'm a bit taken aback by some people being like, it's the best fire card in the set, it's the best card in the set, period. It's incredible, which is because, legit the first game Brandon used it on me, he drew a dead backup that he couldn't play, that I would have drawn a dead card in my turn, and actually then on my turn, what I ended up drawing as the second card was really useful. So I was like, oh, thanks, man. You helped me get to my good card. And a few times I've played her too, I've just drawn a dead card with her that, I guess some people get really cool, obsessed about the mind games, oh, but they don't know what it is. Like, okay, so what? Now on the other end, when I was playing against Alex, our buddy Alex, I pulled an Amaterasu off his deck. So for 1 CP, I got to cancel some, which was just insane. I still don't understand why the cost reduction's on there. I understand the element CP, but I don't think it needed to be cheaper. So again, I like the card, and I definitely think it's got potential, but I'm just surprised how many people are think it's so incredible when I've seen it, whiff, for lack of a better word, multiple times already. And when it whiffs, again, it's not just the kind of whiff of like, oh well, it didn't work. Like you've actually helped your opponent out. They now have one less dead card to draw. So I don't know. What do you think about Lonnie?
Lonnie is my favorite card in the entire set. Uh,
Whoa,
that is a fact. As
man.
soon as I saw that card, I was like, nothing will top this. Uh, I don't agree that I don't think it's the best, but I would definitely say top 5 and probably even top 3.
Wow.
Uh, I whiffed because the card I hit off your deck was an Alizé when I was already at 5 backups and already had an Alizé on field because I was my Fire Ice deck because I wanted to abuse Lonnie and it just so happened to have an Alizé, so it hurt even more. Like,
Yeah.
even if I get rid of a backup slot, I still couldn't play it. And yeah, it's a card you can whiff with. It's one of those that you absolutely love and you want to play it and see it work. But it'll only work when everyone else is playing it against you. I know Steven built a Fire Ice deck to abuse it, and every card he hit off the top of my deck was insane. He just got every forward he wanted, all the big ones,
Yeah.
just free stuff. And that'll happen. That's just one of the risks you run into when playing that card. And it doesn't feel great, but it doesn't discourage you from playing it. The cost reduction and being able to pay any color for it is still too good to pass up.
Do you think
I've seen it.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying I've seen it in non-Fire Ice decks because I think my issue is I was trying to abuse it too much and the deck itself just ran itself into the ground. I've seen Earth Wind decks play it just because they have the color fix and they can cheat it in with Star Sibyl and whatnot. And just you can play it anywhere and it just feels great. You can play it turn 1. It's not a great turn 1 card, but if you play it turn 1, you hit a backup off their deck, it just made it feel so much better.
Yeah. Do you think it's so popular right now because the card is actually that strong, or do you think it's because it's basically a new mechanic? You know, we've never had a way to steal something from our opponent before, deck wise. You know, obviously there's been a few cards that like let you take control of forwards, but this is the first time you can just steal a card from their deck. And so to me, it kind of is, at least in my opinion, is that everyone's so giddy about that because like that's so fun. I just get to steal their card, like. I think that's because, again, just looking at it from a results perspective, even on some streams I've watched, it's just like, you didn't do anything. Like that card, you didn't steal anything of value, so therefore it didn't actually help you in any way. What do you think? Because to me, I guess that's where I'm leaning, is that I think it's so popular right now because it's such a fun new mechanic that, hey, I get to steal your cards.
I agree with that. I do think more than 50% of the time that's why. More than half the time, that's why. Just because you can steal an opponent's card, you don't know what it'll be. It could be good, it could be bad. That's part of the fun.
Yeah.
And the fact you could make it cheaper, it could be a good card, and it's just cheaper for you, and then your opponent just doesn't get that card anymore. And that's why I feel playing it early. And that was another issue I had against you, is I just played it way too late in the game. Had I gotten to it a lot earlier, it would have felt much better and been less of an issue. And that's when I feel that card is best.
Interesting.
Earlier in the game, before you name clash and anything like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll be curious to see how if she's still this popular at the end of the Opus, or if maybe again this is just. But maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe I'll be proved wrong that she's is incredible. And you are right. There is something kind of inherently fun to that design of like, what are you gonna get? And you know, and what I do like about that is that there is something fun to your opponent for that what are they gonna get? You know, there's a chance they could help me with this. You know, to me that's like,
it could even be a boat.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, Loish. I mean, a boat's just a boat, but a box could be anything. It could even be a boat. A little inside for the group chat there. That's something like I like about the Fusoya legend from Opus 9, that I think he's fun design because, you know, you have that moment of like, okay, what are they going to reveal? Is it going to kill the forward or not? And, you know, you'll have those moments, oh, it totally did, or oh, it just barely did, or it just barely didn't. But then he's also well designed too, that they get to draw those cards. So even if they end up not killing it, they still got something out of it. So I do like design like that. Yeah, overall, I've really been enjoying Opus 12 so much. I don't know if it just has an extra boost because Opus 11 went on for so long and, you know, quarantine, but at least so far, people have really been experimenting. Like, I've seen all these decks in multiple places. Like people have really been trying different things out. You know, no one is just playing chicories. Yes, there are people playing Neo X Death, but not everybody is. So far, man, I hope this variety continues. But it felt like they gave us a lot of really fun tools to use. Yes, there's some things I hate
Yeah.
already and some things that are frustrating, but overall, I've enjoyed just seeing the variety of like, oh wow, you get this kind of deck, and then this kind of deck, and then this kind of deck, and people, at least so far, have been super duper creative.
Yeah. I know I hopped in and peeked at the RVA tournament this past Wednesday, and I tried to watch as many different games as I could, and I'm pretty sure I did not see a repeat deck. I think out of the 12, 14, no, not 12, 10, 11 different games I watched, there was not a single deck that repeated itself. And I really enjoyed that. And I was like, oh, well, even if it's just a locals, people experimenting, playing fun stuff, whatever they want, it's just a locals. But, and you look back at the Wii U Cup, the top 8 is so diverse. The only real repeat decks, I think, were 2 Earth Fire decks and 2 Mono Fire decks, but 2 Mono Lightning and 2 Earth Fire. But I think the Earth Fires were drastically different because one was a Waft deck, and the 2 Mono Lightning decks, one was an Odin and the other was just Mono Lightning good stuff.
Nice.
So even though they were the same virtually the same deck, they were completely different. So all 8 decks were just different.
Yeah, that's
awesome. That is what I love to see.
Yeah, me too. It's been it was shitty in Opus 11 seeing, March Ritz, BFA, Kadaj everywhere. And don't worry, they're still around. Trust me, I've seen plenty of people using them. And for anyone who thought they were going to disappear, trust me, they're still just as good as they were.
But they don't seem as good. Like, the concept of them is very good, but they themselves aren't as strong now. There's so many options.
Because something came in against them, or because just people aren't using them as much?
People probably just aren't using them as much. They're trying to find slots for the newer cards. I know whenever I run out of slots in a deck, I'm just like, I'll just jam March Ritz in there just because. Right. And I find myself not really playing them. And if I do play them, it doesn't really get me anywhere. The 3 CP is nice, but I've either already run myself low on hand, or I just have such a big board to get over that it doesn't matter.
Well, I have a feeling they're going to be back because my fear, and what'll probably happen, because what usually happens is once this whole creative spark and, it becomes an older Opus, people will kind of get more settled and maybe just play a certain amount of things over and over. That's just usually what happens. But in the meantime, if that happens, I'll just enjoy the variety for what it is, and it's great right now.
Yes. I could not ask for a better Opus right now.
Absolutely. Well, Brandon, I guess that's all we got to say for today. Thanks for joining me on here, and thanks to any listeners we have for sticking around. Let us know if you have any fun Opus 12 builds or decks or ideas, anything we didn't mention here. There's so much to go into. We just kind of wanted to touch on some of the stuff we've been doing.
I know there's a bunch of cards that we wanted to talk about, whether they were good or bad, but just couldn't squeeze them in.
Yeah.
So we may have a follow-up at some point.
Yeah, plenty to say. All right, my man. You have a good one. I will see you later.
Sounds good. I'll see you later as well.
Bye.